Hey there! Welcome to the IDP Plus Touchdown Props Pod, where if you're looking for some touchdown props to place for Thanksgiving and the Black Friday football games for Week 12 of the NFL season, you've come to the right place. Stick around, and in just a sec, I'll get into some of my favorite touchdown prop bets for Week 13 of the NFL season. Welcome back to another week of the IDP Plus Touchdown Props Pod. Each week, if you've seen before, you kind of know how it goes, but for those of you that might be new, I've just been basically laying out a big buffet menu for you guys each week of guys that I've done research on who might be on particularly hot streaks or be in a matchup against a defense within an advantage that we can exploit or a weakness in that defense, just good matchups, So these aren't even really suggestions. I'm more just laying out I put my research out here kind of on a menu for you guys, and I'm just kind of sharing my research for bets that I've done myself for these Thanksgiving games and the Black Friday games. And as you can see, I've got my little one Collins here to join me for this week. So hopefully she can be our little good luck charm. So we'll actually just go ahead and jump into it. Our my first play this week is going to be we're just going to throw Jahmyr Gibbs in here because there's a good matchup for Detroit running backs. I mean, every matchup, frankly, is a good matchup for Detroit running backs, but particularly because David Montgomery is kind of questionable. It's a short week. I don't know why they would think that they need to rush him back to play against an Chicago team that's kind of been struggling up and down all year, and frankly, I don't know if they're going to have the firepower to keep up with the Detroit Lions. So I feel like maybe Montgomery might be on a pitch count this week, in which case we can really look to, I think they're going to be able to lean on Gibbs quite a bit more in this one. His anytime touchdown comes in at minus 175. I even threw it in here for like his 2+ touchdown prop was at plus 300, and his first touchdown prop was at 400. He's actually hit the first touchdown. Him and David Montgomery have actually kind of passed this back throughout the season. Not that they've had it in everyone, but a number of times you've seen Detroit just go up extremely early. They go to the run immediately, and if they get the ball first, you're looking at one of the running backs likely scoring first. So, like say, him and David Montgomery have been going back and forth. I thought that was kind of a little bit of fun for the Thanksgiving games. Otherwise, he ought to be a good anchor. He's actually got some of the best odds we've seen from him in the last several weeks at minus 175. So we can maybe use him as an as an anchor play this week. So. Again, I don't think that there's any reason for Detroit to push Montgomery to use to be heavily utilized in this one. I think they should be able to come out with a win anyways. That's really the only running back that I felt comfortable putting on here. Josh Jacobs is heating up. It's not particularly a good matchup. Amir Abdullah, I think, is going to be the starting running back for the Vegas Raiders. And the Chiefs have actually been allowing quite a bit of production on the ground. So I kind of like the running back opportunity there, but I feel comfortable enough that they're going to score on the Chiefs, considering Madison and Zamir White might be out on this one. I don't know. Maybe they don't have, they can't game script for too much for Amir Abdullah. Maybe he can run loose and take advantage of that. Just something to kind of throw out there. And then Devon Achane kind of has a pretty good matchup as well. But it's kind of a tricky one. Green Bay's been pretty stingy this year, so he was minus 120 if you want to throw a little sprinkle. But that's really the only running back that I felt good about. Honestly, up front, I'm just going to tell y'all, I think this is going to be this Thanksgiving games and the Black Friday games. I think they're going to feature a lot of tight end play. We've got some good tight end matchups and some tight ends that are really catching some steam. So I've got some good treats for you when we get to tight ends. But for now, we're going to jump into the wide receivers. First up here, we've got DeAndre Hopkins for an anytime touchdown at plus 150 against the Vegas Raiders. This is on Friday, the Black Friday game. Las Vegas has given up at least one wide receiver touchdown in each of the last 4 games, and the Chiefs just signed Hopkins last go around, so he didn't quite score. I think he had been there maybe 1 or 2 weeks. But ever since then, Mahomes has heated up on another level compared to where he started out this season. So I think now that he's got a little bit more familiarity with Patrick Mahomes, I think this Chiefs offense is now humming. I mean, they've been able to pull out wins, but Mahomes hasn't always been in throwing 2, 3, 4 touchdowns a game. So now that we've got a good floor in terms of passing touchdowns, I think DeAndre Hopkins haven't been signed exactly for this because he's always had a nose for the end zone. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to kind of cash in here for a DeAndre Hopkins anytime touchdown. Again, plus money for a guy who's got a nose for the end zone. His quarterback's heating up, and he's the best pass catcher on this team. Give me that. Let's see. Next play here we've got. I kind of took a little long shot here, but I like it. I like the odds here, and it just kind of feels right. So I've got Jamison Williams with an anytime touchdown at plus 220 against Chicago this week or tomorrow night. Jamison Williams this just feels like a game where Chicago actually has been giving up decent production to opposing wide receivers. They've allowed 4 wide receiver touchdowns in the last 3 games. And the last couple of weeks, the Bears have let wide receiver twos run loose, of all things, specifically Christian Watson, where they kind of focused in on Jaden Reed. They let Christian Watson go for 130 yards or more. And then last week, Jordan Addison went for 160 yards or more and a touchdown. Just wide receiver twos kind of going off. This kind of feels like a game where JMO breaks off like a 60-yard bomb or something like that. So I wanted to throw him in here because I wanted to be sure I caught him if he did get it. So it's a fairly good matchup and a guy who's going to really be able to exploit the weak areas of the defense when they focus on the main pass catcher and Amon-Ra. So let's continue that streak and hope this wide receiver hits. So now, without further ado, we will go ahead and get into the meat of this episode. I'm hoping to put out another episode for you guys later this week for the Sunday games, but this one we're going to focus, again, I mentioned earlier, we're going to focus this one on the Thanksgiving and Black Friday games. So we'll jump into our tight end plays. I'm telling you, I think this is going to be a big week for tight ends, at least in the Thanksgiving games, because I saw a bunch of opportunity here. So we've got Tucker Kraft up first with an anytime touchdown at plus 160. He plays Miami this week. Last year's games were really good to tight ends as well, and Kraft in particular actually scored last year in his game. So I like the odds, especially considering Miami has allowed 2 touchdowns to opposing tight ends in the last few weeks, and they've been pretty stingy to opposing wide receivers. This just makes the opportunity for Tucker Kraft look that much better, and he's kind of been very touchdown dependent, and it seems like whenever the wide receivers can't get it going, that Jordan Love looks to Tucker Kraft. So I think this is a good opportunity, a good matchup for Tucker Kraft to find the end zone again this week. Jonnu Smith is going to be the next one here on my list. We've got him coming in at plus 195 for an anytime touchdown against Green Bay this week. It's the same game here. I feel good that maybe we can get 2 tight end touchdowns. As of the last several weeks, tight ends have been heating up all over the league, so I like this, especially considering some decent matchups here. Miami is kind of middling against tight ends, but they've let good ones have some days. Like they let McBride and Bowers both go for 120 plus yards within the last 5 weeks, and considering that Jonnu Smith is heating up with 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, and he and Achane are really the only consistent pieces of this offense, I feel like he'll be used quite a bit. At the very least, he'll have tons of targets and receptions, and I think in a matchup where Green Bay is probably going to focus on Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, even Achane. I think the reason Jonnu Smith is popping right now is because everything else is inconsistent, and defenses are trying to figure out what they need to hone in on. But Jonnu Smith's been the only one him and Achane have been the only one that's really been able to just kind of gash defenses regardless of matchup. So I feel like Green Bay, there's no way Green Bay focuses on Jonnu, so I think he's just going to continue to eat in decent matchups because it's just pure usage, and he's been a favorite lately to score a touchdown, and Tua's caught a little bit of a fire here in the last couple of weeks, so I think that is very likely for Jonnu Smith this week. To wrap it up here for tight ends, actually even put a little bit on Laporta because he scored last year too. But it's been kind of a different year, and man, everybody kind of eats in Detroit. It kind of just they pass the baton each week, so I didn't really feel too great about it. But to wrap it up here, we're going with Noah Gray. Noah Gray is on the hottest of hot streaks lately with 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He's literally even got the best possible matchups for tight end, or best possible matchup for tight ends in a matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders, where the man, they've just been letting about every decent tight end score on them all year long. They have allowed the most touchdowns and yards to opposing tight ends at the very least in the last 4 weeks, and it's not even close. So the fact that Noah Gray is on this burner for 2 weeks now, that's not on accident, by the way. While teams are focusing on DeAndre Hopkins and trying to limit Travis Kelce, they've when they get in close, they leave Noah Gray wide open. And how are you going to focus on Noah Gray because he's a guy that's going to catch 2, 3, 4 passes a game for like 30 yards, but he could very well score on a couple of those catches. So he's just seems opposite Travis Kelce. It seems like when Travis Kelce draws the defense to one side of the field in close, Noah Gray's been able to just kind of pop in on the other side. At least lately anyways, and give me a great matchup at plus 250. Man, if you even look at 2+ touchdowns, that's 20-1 odds. So again, I think the cards are on the table for Noah Gray to find the end zone yet again this week, and we're looking at 2.5 times your cash. So I like that play. I like this play for Noah Gray to keep this streak going against Vegas this week. All right, we'll throw in a couple of honorable mentions for y'all. I've got Keenan Allen anytime touchdown here at plus 275. It just kind of feels like a game where Chicago's kind of had some momentum the last couple of weeks since they've hired their new offensive coordinator, and things just kind of look to be on the upswing. They've kind of let Caleb Williams just kind of do his thing, and he seems a little more comfortable in the pocket. We're seeing him make those throws that they drafted him for. You know what I mean? The first overall pick kind of perfect throws to Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. So I think Keenan Allen being the leading target getter is going to be I think he's going to have the most opportunities to find the end zone. So I think that especially in a decent matchup where Detroit's been friendly to wide receiver production, they just haven't really allowed a lot of touchdowns. But, a Chicago offense that's kind of on the upswing, I feel like that's probably their best chance to score is through the air. So now that I tell you this, watch Cole Kmet. I said tight ends will have a big day. Watch Cole Kmet have 2 touchdowns or something like that. But no, no kidding. The way you're going to beat this Detroit team is through the air. DeAndre Swift not going to quite get it done. They haven't really allowed much running back production at all this year. They've been among the top in the league. So give me Keenan Allen with some plus juice. I even like Jacoby Myers against the Chiefs this week at plus 245. Still some great odds, and Jacoby Myers has scored on the Chiefs in their last couple of matchups, so he seems to kind of have the Chiefs number, and I feel like this ought to be a game where I think the Chiefs are going to try to make a statement because everybody's been kind of clowning them since they've been barely pulling off their wins. They've been winning, but they've been kind of barely pulling it off in the last little bit of each game. So I think they're going to be looking to make a statement. I'm not going to say they're going to completely patch up everything on this defense. So I feel like Aiden O'Connell is actually starting this week for the Raiders. So we're kind of looking a little bit better for our pass catchers there. So I think Jacoby Myers, even Brock Bowers could possibly have a pretty good game here. So I think Jacoby could maybe find the end zone. So that's actually going to wrap up the early portion, the first half of this week's episode series, I guess, if you want to call it. I'll be looking to put something together for you all on the Sunday games later this week. So thank you all for tuning in. As a reminder, let's stay within our limits and bet responsibly. And everybody just kind of have a great holiday, and hopefully you guys can win some extra cash while you're stuffing your belly, so you can stuff your bellies even more with the extra dough you got in your pocket. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you back here next week for week 14 of the IDP Plus Touchdown Props podcast.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.